We've been talking about that public viewing happening today for World War II veteran Richard Overton, who was the oldest man in this country.
It's going to be at Cook Weldon Funeral Home on North Lamar from noon to 7 today, then followed by funeral services tomorrow at Shoreline Church starting at 11 o'clock. Governor Greg Abbott and Austin Mayor Steve Adler both expected to take part in that ceremony. And KXAN is going to bring it to you live, both on television and also streaming on our website, kxan.com, again starting at 11 o'clock. Well, Overton is going to be buried at the Texas State Cemetery in East Austin after that funeral tomorrow.
Yeah, it's reserved, that cemetery, for certain groups of people, lawmakers, elected officials, community leaders, and it's been that way for the past 168 years. Chris Davis is live from East Austin with a closer look. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Sally and John. What you see when you first walk into the Texas State Cemetery, all of this really hasn't been there all that long, though. It was Lieutenant Governor Bob Bullock who back in 1994 had the grounds restored, had this whole visitor center built, and like so many Texans who made an impact on the state, Bullock is now buried here too. The flow of Texas history pools here.
It's just a very, very deep sense of honor and awe, and I get that every day. It doesn't seem to wear off.
Nathan Stevens worked in state government in the 90s before becoming cemetery administrator last year.
We've also got Darrell Royal. Aggie Garrido is behind him.
He calls this place the Cliff Notes of Texas history.
We have Governor Conley, Barbara Jordan, Tom Landry.
We're seventh generation Texans, so we like a lot of the history that this cemetery brings.
This was the first buried here in 1851.
What started as a single plot for General Edward Burleson grew to 18 acres. 11 governors, Stephen F. Austin, Chris Kyle, the woman who sewed the first Texas flag, all buried here.
It's just so much history here.
Not many make the cut to get in. It's a collection of memorials to the Lone Star State's best.
You know, at the end of the day, you realize that quite possibly our best days are ahead of us, to somewhat quote Bullock, because of the contributions of the people that are buried here.
Soon that will include Richard Overton. His plot is just a few blocks from his front porch, a new place to hold court as history trickles on. Now, it wasn't the history or the meaning behind it that made Overton want to be buried here at the Texas State Cemetery. It was really far more simple. That headstone that you saw at the end of that story that says Overton, that belongs to Richard's cousin, Volma Overton Sr. He was a civil rights leader here in Austin. And Overton's family tells me that, simply put, he just wanted to be buried next to his cousin. We'll send it back to you.
Chris, he was 112 years old, as we mentioned. I would imagine that there had to be some planning going back quite a few years that made this all happen.
Yeah, that's right. Richard Overton, his family tells me, had that spot picked out for a long time, but unfortunately someone else had already reserved that plot, and it really wasn't until recently that it became available, when that other person decided on a different plot here in the cemetery instead. So really, Richard Overton did need those 112 years, all of them, to be able to get that final wish.
Wow. Funny how that stuff works out, Chris. Thank you very much. There are 3,000 people buried there at the cemetery, and another 1,000 have made plans to be laid to rest there. Now, here are the qualifications you have to meet in order to be buried there. First of all, if you're a former lawmaker or legislative member, also officials who have been appointed by the governor are eligible to be buried there, or a person who has made a significant contribution to the state of Texas in any field.
Wow.